glad to see you this morning, and we are in the book of Proverbs. We are in chapter 6 today, and this chapter primarily is we could say a chapter of warnings, and it will deal with three particular things. It will deal with surety, which means liability for someone else's debt, and Solomon will deal with laziness, which if you had been coming to our Wednesday night service, Brother Bob just got into this in his financial speaking. And this third warning in this, which is really encompasses the biggest part of the chapter, that of immorality and the temptation to do evil. And he will deal, of course, with sexual sins in the last, which we will deal with also. Now, very quickly, as we go through this, I want to deal with these first two rather quickly, because we have been dealing with this a little bit before. Let's begin reading here, chapter 6 this morning, and then we will hopefully get to where we want to get to. Verse 1 of chapter 6. This is warning against financial obligations, in which you and I may know as co-signing for someone. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth, thou art taken with the words of thy mouth. Do this now, my son, and deliver thyself when thou art come into the hand of thy friend. Go, humble thyself, and make sure thy friend. Give not sleep to thine eyes, nor slumber to thine eyelids. Deliver thyself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Now, he begins his admonition here with my son, which we have here, a king talking to his son. And he starts off, and really what this deals with, he uses this word surety, which means the debt of another. Now, you and I know this today to be a co-signing for someone, and what you're doing legally is you're saying to the lender that you will pay this debt if this person that you're signing for cannot. Now, this particular part of this proverb is not, I don't believe it teaches is against surety in general, but what it does teach is that you don't want to shake hands with somebody that's not reliable. You don't want to go into an agreement like this with a stranger, because Solomon uses the word stranger here. It's one of those unreliable people, and you know them. You examine their life. You know whether or not their word is true, whether or not they say they do what they say they do. These are the kind of relationships or agreements that Solomon is warning his son against. Now, what he says to do here, get out of it. If you know you've made a mistake, he said, don't sleep, don't slumber. He said, deliver thyself as quickly as the roe from the hand of the hunter, and as quickly as a bird would from the fountain. In other words, if you know you've made a mistake in this, I don't really know what you could do to get out of it, but he says if there's a way, he said you need to do it. Now, that's about all I need to say on that. Verse 6, he goes into this thing of laziness. Now, my goodness, folks, I don't think it takes a very uneducated individual to understand this morning the perils of being a lazy individual, a lazy person. Verse 6 says, go to the end. Thou shalt consider her ways and be wise. Notice what this wise man Solomon does. He goes to one of the most meaningless little old insects that we have, and he said, consider her ways and be wise. We can learn something from the animal kingdom if we'll just take notice of it and consider it. It's seemingly this little ant. I don't know if you've ever watched them. We used to, as kids, we used to enjoy watching them. You'd see an ant moving something across the road that was 20 times bigger than him, but he was at it. This particular little insect has no guide, has no overseer, has no ruler. But what he does, he provides meat, He provides. He's got his meat for the winter. He is busy at it. Verse 9 says, "How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou rise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. So shall thy poverty come as one that travelleth, and thy want as an armed man." Now, I think the majority of the folks I will be speaking to this morning will probably be mature adults and older adults. All of you have experienced and have seen the hand of a lazy individual, what he does, what he winds up, what his family suffers and goes through because of his apathetic and not caring about work. His work habit is very bad, and I think every one of you know about it. Now, from chapter 12 on, Solomon began to get into moral issues, and of course he will begin, and he will do this more with his son when he'll talk to him about the company that he keeps, the people that he runs with. Now, I lived in the country as a young boy, and most of our neighbors were good kids. So my dad really didn't have to warn me about the company that I kept, but he kept it in his mind. He told me about it, and there were individuals that he did not want me to run with. He warned me about them, warned about the bad company, verse 12. "A naughty person, a wicked man, walketh with a froward mouth." That word froward means perverse, wayward. You run into these individuals who talk like they come out right out of the gutter. This naughty person here he's really a man. The Bible calls a man of Belial. He's a worthless person. These are the kind of people, young people, that you don't want to be accompanying. Froward, no, he winketh with his eye. Now, notice this guy's character, his characteristic, the things that he does. He winks with his eyes. He speaks with his feet. He teaches with his fingers. Now, what this individual tries to do to an innocent young man, may I say a child that's raised in a good home, he will always try to lead him down the wrong path. He will teach you bad things. He'll encourage you to do bad things, and he's very froward in his speaking and in his actions. Matter of fact, he will encourage you to sin. Frowardness is in his heart. This attitude that he has, it's heartfelt. It's in his heart, or else he wouldn't be like that. Therefore, here's what's going to happen to these individuals. He sows discord, therefore shall his calamity come suddenly. Suddenly shall he be broken without remedy. The individual who thinks that he can do this particular kind of stuff and get away with it, one of these days a catastrophe is going to hit his life, and it will be without warning. Now, beginning in verse 16, you I'm sure have been a Bible student very long. God speaks of sins that are worse than other sins. And beginning in verse 6, he speaks about 7 sins, which Solomon says to God there, an abomination. We'll go through them right quickly and try to get on his last part here. Verse 16, these 6 things that the Lord hates. Did you hear what Solomon said? The Lord hates. Now, the Lord is able to do that and not sin and doing it. He hates these. Yea, there are 7 sins, and he's going to list them here. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among the brethren. Now let's take a note. Right quickly, we're going to go through these. Note here the first on the list, pride. Haughtiness and contempt of others. Usually an individual who is full of pride will think himself a little bit higher than everyone. He will look down on others. God despises proud looks and haughtiness. Matter of fact, if you remember now, the Bible says that this was when Satan, this beautiful cherub, was found with pride in his heart. One of the things that brought him down. God despises it. Pride is a terrible sin, and you've run into people who are proud individuals, proud people who wouldn't bow down to anything. Now, the next to this proud look, he says a lying tongue. Falsehood, deception, fraud, all of these things are in this thing of a lying tongue. We know what lies do. And by the way, there is such a thing as half-truth. Half-truth is a lie. And of course, God hates it. God hates half-truth. Since truth is so profound, it is no wonder then that God hates lying. Hands that shed innocent blood refers to those who possess cruelty and bloodthirstiness. And boy, do we ever have them in our land today. When I read this verse, I think about the baby killers, those who are responsible for and who support killing of innocent babies in the womb. I think there will be a terrible day one day for them. God hates that. Solomon, next he spoke about a heart that devises wicked imagination. I can see a person, I think some of these Hollywood people out there who make up these movies that aren't fit to watch, I think they sit around and they think up this evil stuff, this sexual stuff that is so bad. That's what they do. That's a heart that devises wicked. Now they imagine it in their heart, and then they use their mind, and then of course they carry it out in this. The next sin mentioned, the one that run to do mischief. This sin mentioned is this individual who devises this stuff, imagine it in his heart, thinks it in his mind, and then his feet is fast to carry it out. He's very diligent in his wrongdoing. False witness that speaketh lies. Probably anything any worse than someone who is supposed to be testifying for the truth, and he testifies falsely. That's what that is. And in this seventh one, seems to be kind of like the crowning sin, just one who sows discord in the brother. Now he already mentioned that one of these prior sins, this fellow sows discord, but someone who would sow discord in the church of the living God, God hates that. They can do a lot of harm, talking down your brother, saying ill things about someone. That is called sowing discord. And by the way, every one of these sins, I think people can possess them all. They can be like this, and there is no sin or vice that's left out in these seven sins. Contained in these seven sins that God hates, I think all sin are hooked into it. All right quickly. Things to consider. He gives a short little brevity again on the value of God's instruction when he reminds his son again in verse 20. Keep thy father's commandment, forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually about thy neck, upon thy heart, and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee, and when thou sleepest, it shall keep thee, and when thou wakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp. Now listen to this, folks. The commandment is a lamp. A lamp lights your path. A lamp shows you the way. The law is a light. It gives us light on the path we're to walk, and where we're to walk, and how we're to walk. And the reproofs of instruction are the way of life. You see, the way of death is following this fellow with a froward mouth and a froward heart. He leads you in the wrong direction. God says, my commandments, he said, son, keep your father's commandments and your mother's law. And we told you about this binding about the neck, binding about the heart. So you see, when this law gets in your heart, it'll be kept. That's the new covenant that God signed when Jesus came in. God said, I'm going to write these laws on your heart. And then you will not only remember them, and you will have the power and the ability to keep them. Now, right here to last, I just got a couple of minutes. We won't hammer a lot on this, but there are women And I hate to just pound on the women this morning, but there are men who are like this also. Let me read it, and we'll make a couple of comments. This is especially heeded to the young men and to the young ladies. Keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. Lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids. Now this was probably back in Eastern culture day. Those ladies would paint their eyelids up. Well, just look around you. They do that. Some ladies do that a lot today, which some's all right. For by means of a whorish woman, a man is brought to a piece of bread. Did you get that? I think the thing about that is that you'll be down to where you'll be begging for bread. And the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So he that goeth into his neighbor's wife, whosoever toucheth her, shall not be innocent. Now the Bible speaks about the high cost of sexual sins, especially this of adultery. It speaks about it, how that it just it's a sin that is seemingly, I don't know, it just can't be gotten over. The Bible speaks about it. Paul spoke a lot about it in his writings about what it does. It's really, when a man does that, he breaks this law of adultery. It's something I think he never forgets. It's a sin that it's because I think it's so bad is that this thing of a man and his wife is the illustration of Christ and his church. So I think when you break that by committing adultery, I think it's one of the worst things that can happen. It's costly. Realize how costly. Verse 30, men do not despise a thief. If someone steals from you, he said, because he's hungry, that thief can be taken in. He'll pay for his sin. He'll be repaid. Society will say you're cleared, but if he be, listen to this, but whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. It's almost like a sin. Now, I'm not saying it can't be forgiven of. I know that it can. But I think deep down in this individual's heart, he suffers and he never forgets it. God bless you this morning. Hope you enjoyed that.